Welcome everyone to one of our first big Marketing AI Institute webinars of the year. We're going to talk today about shaping the future of advertising. What is AI's role in driving consumer behavior and authentic engagement? And if you would like to advance the slides, Kevin, I'm going to give us both a formal introduction here. I am pleased to be joined today with Kevin Myers, who is the Chief Marketing and Product Officer at AiAdvertising, our valued partner on today's webinar. Kevin's going to go through some amazing material and content today about the future of advertising that I think everyone's going to love. And my name is Mike Kaput. I am the Chief Content Officer here at Marketing AI Institute. And I am in charge of growing our audience here at the Institute, where we are making AI approachable and actionable for business leaders. And you might notice something a little different at the bottom of our bios here. We've got two little sections for both Kevin and myself on motivations and emotion. Now, AI advertising, their entire approach to advertising is to do smarter AI-powered advertising by being persona-led. And that means that you figure out the motivations and emotions that are most important to each of your audience members. And so before this, Kevin and I filled out some information about what motivates us and what emotions actually resonate most with us based on those motivations. So, Kevin, it sounds like reciprocity, authority, and FOMO are some of the things that motivate you most when it comes to marketing messages and advertising. Does that sound about right?
It does, and a lot of this is a derivative of a lot of science that we throw at it. And what we're looking at here is kind of the top end, front end of the baseball card, if you will. The back end of the baseball card that we do goes quite a bit deeper on narrative and more information about each of us. But we both share the emotion of being kind of love struck, if you will. And, and this is important to this journey and the conversation we're going to have today, Mike.
That's fantastic. So before we dive into all the awesome content we have today, I have a few quick housekeeping updates from Marketing AI Institute. We had a crazy busy, in such a good way, 2023 as the world finally woke up to the fact that they need to start understanding how to use AI in their organizations to drive productivity and performance. And this year is going to be no different. We've got tons of events and initiatives planned. One of them is our AI for Writers Summit, which is actually coming up here March 6th from about 12 to 5 p.m. Eastern. It is a virtual event, and you can find out more about that at AiWritersSummit.com. There's actually a free ticket option, thanks to our sponsor, Jasper. This is going to tell you everything that you need to understand today as a writer in 2024 in this crazy AI landscape we find ourselves in. You can see a sampling of the sessions we're going to go through. We're step by step going to cover everything related to AI and writing that you need to accelerate your company and career using artificial intelligence for any type of writing and content creation. I especially would like to draw your attention to near the bottom there, our AI in action session, which is going to show off some of the top technologies in an actual real life marketing workflow that can save you literally dozens of hours per month. That alone is worth sticking around for and creates a massive amount of value for anyone who does any type of writing or content creation. I would also like to draw your attention towards our AI Academy for Marketers. We have some huge launches that have happened or are about to happen in the coming months here. We are relaunching a brand new 2024 version of our Piloting AI course at pilotingai.com. That's coming February 8th and is available for pre-sale. It is an entire A to Z journey for how to get started with AI in your company and career. We have a brand new Scaling AI course that is coming in early April that helps your organization take the next step at actually going beyond simple experimentation and understanding of AI to actual enterprise-wide, organization-wide adoption and understanding. And last but certainly not least, we have an AI Mastery membership available. This is a totally reimagined education membership that is yearly, that comes with a ton of new benefits that you get anytime you sign up. And they include things like practical hands on demos, analyst briefings from our team about trends and insights, and AMAs with our CEO, Paul Raitzer. So go to marketingaiinstitute.com/education to learn more about that. And last but not least, before I stop talking and let Kevin take the wheel here, I'd very much encourage you to join us at the Marketing AI Conference this year. Last year was our biggest conference ever. We had more than 750 people join us in our hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. We are expecting twice that this year. We bring together all the forward thinking marketers and business people and AI experts in our vast network to share knowledge and learn together how AI can be used in their own businesses. So go to maicon.ai to check that out. It's from September 10th to the 12th, and use the code webinar100 to save $100 on your ticket. Right now is the best ticket pricing you can get. So I'd highly encourage you to take a look at Macon today. And one final housekeeping note for anyone that's asking, I believe we've addressed this in the chat, but this webinar will be made available on demand and sent to you via email after we complete today's webinar. Usually we get that out within about 24 hours. So if you miss anything or have to jump off, don't worry, you'll get all of the content here after the event. All right, Kevin, take us away. Tell us about the future of advertising and how AI is going to play a role.
Well, as I start this, I was looking at, what would I want to take away some 2 years later, Mike, before we met. And it's crazy that 2 years ago, there was, a lot of focus on the tech. But I'm going to focus today on the M in the Marketing AI Institute, and that's the marketing part. And what I mean by that is I want to go through the key learnings of what we found out over the past 2 years, embracing a lot of AI and machine learning, and then how do you apply it to a practical implementation of what you're doing. Um, you see here that I'm trying to take the KISS principle to this presentation. Um, in the acronym that I want to use is it's the story stupid, because storytelling is the essence of marketing. So as I was preparing for this presentation, took a little break last night and watched one of my favorite movies, Moneyball. And Moneyball is such a fabulous movie on a lot of levels. But the part that really kind of resonated or took some meaning here is not only in the storytelling, because we're going to talk about kind of the structure of storytelling, but this movie in particular was embracing tech, and it was embracing a different way to think about baseball. And it's very rich with the dialogue of the purist that didn't really want to talk about, what was the batting average and the on base percentage, because they wanted to break it down from the humanistic side. And today in marketing and the fusing of AI, we call it marketer plus machine, but it is this struggle. Like, what part is the traditional storytelling and what part is the tech that we want to go ahead and embrace so that we can scale, we can get to insights faster, prescriptive things, I dare say predictive things. These are all in front of us, but we want to use the KISS principle. We want to keep it simple and focus on the story. So I'll do that throughout. I'll go through and tell you what we have fused into our storytelling, but I hope there is a story here to be told and listened to throughout our time together. Because whenever you're embracing the technology part of it, the tools are coming fast and furious. And everybody knows about ChatGPT and Midjourney and Dolly, but there are literally hundreds, thousands of others. And there's a diagram back in the day before AI that went through the CRM and the marketing tech and the ad tech. And over like 5 years, it went from hundreds to thousands. You can't even see the logos on them anymore. So part of the challenge will be for most people is, what should I be looking at? Well, that's what the Institute's here for. Looking into what are those tools that are available? How can they be practically applied? But as I look through kind of the little sound bites I put in here, it's not only knowing the tools, but then how to use them and how to get people to talk about you. And that's the essence of storytelling. What others say about you is more important than what you say about yourself. And embracing these tools that become the prompts, the precursors to AI is what's critical to the journey. This is from the book Christopher Lockheed from Play Bigger. And he's noted as saying marketing's job is to put the right words in the right mouth and get word of mouth on scale happening. There is a technical term for when you get word of mouth going, just like the conversation Mike and I were having before we started. It is what we're learning about each other. It is the word of mouth that leads to a relationship. And put the tech aside. This is about relationships and storytelling and getting to learn each other, learn more about each other. As I kind of go through this, there are things that we know about our customer. And those are usually buried in CRM files or ERP or e-commerce, but they're not really the things that are anything more than transactionally how you, the customer, are known by the brand. We have to go out beyond that. We have to go ahead and, in order to get those right words in the right conversation, word of mouth strategy, we have to begin to start embracing other things that are emotive, that are personality driven, that are persuasion tactics, triggers. This is what we do for a business and what we feel is the most magnificent part of having embraced AI is because all these tells, all these signals are available for us to harvest. But then you got to harvest them and put them to work. And putting them to work in advertising is really what this session is all about. So I'm gonna present to you, and I'm gonna pivot away for a bit on what we do, what our tech is, and lead you down a path of kind of where is advertising happening? Where are the stories being told? Because there is a massive changing landscape of what's going on in how ads are played, shared, skipped over, not viewed. Uh, it's important that we embrace and figure out where is it that we're going to reach our intended customers. The arc of these ways that people talk about omni-channel activation, and let's go back all the way to when people sat around a radio and listened. Those were brought to you by advertisers. Of course, that moved over to the television set. And then we got to the cable element of it. Then we cut the cable. And then where everything's online, everything is available on any screen, but it's moved beyond that. And it's important that we as advertisers understand that where the channels and where the content is going is where you can develop a very deep relationship with a group of people, affinity groups, because uh, broadcasting content now is getting to be like the tech into the thousands and thousands of channels. So where do you go to see the one that will resonate most closely with you? I'm going to go back kind of in uh, kind of paint the story of what's happening today on the shoulders of what changed entertainment and television. And so the case for cable were these personalized shows for music, sports, and news. And all of a sudden we moved over into the cable world and we had our dedicated channels for that. Beyond that, then we had a case for, wait a second, I want all that same content when I want it. I don't want to sit down and have to go through regular programming hours. So the likes of YouTube TV and Hulu and now Prime are changing just on demand capabilities of getting that content. Um, as we get this content, we end up subscribing to more and more channels. And these are the ones that, if you looked at your credit card, probably have half dozen, maybe more of these services for music and entertainment. But you know, the consumer's waking up to this, and there's actually even solutions you can buy that will allow you to start turning some of these subscriptions off because often people have dozens, but nearly half of consumers are frustrated by all these subscriptions. And it's like, whatever happened to cable? Can we go back to that day and time where it was a little bit easier to just turn on the many channels? Yes, it was ad supported, but you didn't have dozens and dozens of places to subscribe. Well, so the market has moved even beyond this. Now, these are the players in entertainment. And I would argue that the Prime is the one that's really changing everything, because they're going to start slipping in your choice as to whether or not you want to subscribe or whether you want to have an ad supported capability to watch what you want. And this isn't to the tune of billions and billions of ad dollars that are moving to different screens and different channels. And why is that important to everybody here? Because we have to do storytelling differently. Just as everything has evolved, running the same old ads is not going to work. In the same way that if you had an ad back in the day in print, did it translate well to TV? No. Did it translate well to online? No. So you have to kind of fine tune your storytelling for this is what's next. Fast channels. If you don't know what that stands for, that's free ad supported TV. And many people are subscribing to these type of channels. And the difference here is that these channels are running the same type of advertising that you would see on regular linear TV, if you will, or cable or online TV, but the content within them is very different. They're picking up channels based off of those affinity groups, based off of what people care about, whether or not we're driving deeper in sports or into news or into other areas of entertainment. So the advertiser has got to be smarter. The advertiser has to make sure that the content that they're putting on these networks resonates with that viewer. So, how do you change the way you tell stories? If storytelling is everything, a marketer's job is to cause an emotion to take action. So you better figure out pretty quickly where is it that you're cataloging all of the emotive interest and persuasion tactics of your clients. But as you start doing the storytelling, there's something called the hero's journey, and this is where uh, the writer, if you will start going through and then focusing on the person, and that person is in an ordinary journey in any good storytelling, whether it's a book or a movie or TV show. And the character development goes from what's called ordinary to the protagonist to the antagonist to a love interest, perhaps, and then the hero of the story. But these three blocks of content all have different ways to start telling that story. And so I'm not here to teach people how to write books or create movies. I'm telling you that the ads that resonate, the ads that will find their way, that'll be memorable, are integrated into the actual content and storytelling. So what is our job? If we understand the story that's being told and the ad and the screen that we're going to be playing on, then we have to be in the business of shortening it to create the teaser or the trailer of what we do and the story we want to tell. Al Reese, this book is quite old, but I think the saying is as powerful as it ever was, is what others say about us is more important than we say about ourselves. Um, Punchline there is this starts the journey of making sure that brands, marketers start thinking like that they're journalists, like that they're going to write a book, that they're going to create a movie, because it's only that type of content that will have other people repeat it. Otherwise, they're looking for a way to skip through it, fast forward through it. So it's so important that we start thinking about the storytelling element of what we do. We at AI Advertising have partnered with an emerging fast channel. And in this case, it's called Brinks TV. And the reason we were drawn to Brinks is there's a gentleman by the name of John Brinkus, that's the name, and he was the sports science guy. And there were 1,800 episodes on ESPN for John Brinkus on the science of this, the science of football, tennis, golf. He broke down every sport. And as he was going through that, brands came to him and said, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us a science story about a product or service. So John branched out from just telling the science of sports and sports heroes into the science of brands. And that story is one that I'll just go over here and show a quick clip of what he actually had produced. This is John Brinkus and what he had produced for the science of Ford tough trucks. And I'm not sure if this will play perfectly, but we're going to try.
We take a close look at the science behind the 2015 Ford F-150. Today, we're going to be examining power, weight, and performance. We'll be shattering all kinds of misconceptions. In the game of football, when it comes to running backs, being bigger and heavier isn't necessarily better.
So this is what John did for 1,800 episodes, where he broke down the science of human beings and then started breaking down the science of brands themselves. And the reason why I point that out is that is other people, back to this quote of what others say about us is more important than we say about ourselves. Testimonials are critical in storytelling. So whether or not you're integrating your brand into the arc of the narrative of a story, or you're getting other people to tell a story about you, that's critical. How do you tie that back to what happens in AI? And from our firm, we believe the story starts with not only knowing, as I mentioned before, why your customers buy. Companies have very rich systems to catalog what they buy, but they don't really catalog who the customer is. And it's that essence of getting to the prompt, the element that we can feed into AI, the process of knowing our customers that will help us in our storytelling event. So here you see that we as a business like to embrace what it is that the company knows about their customers transactionally, so that we can tell them more through relationships about who they are. This is the AI advertising platform, and it's a 6-step process. And I'll lead you through this because this is the technical part of the story. And that is that we onboard data from CRM, ERP, e-commerce, and we're able to harness trillions of data points that are from the people that you call a customer. We do this by protecting PII. So there's an old saying that if you're getting something online and you didn't pay for it, then you are the customer. And that's a line from the Social Network movie. But it's relevant because everywhere we go and the devices we use, we're sending off signals about ourselves. Where do we shop? Where do we travel to? What do we like? What do we share? What stories do we tell? And those signals are harvested without knowing the person's name. So I'll give you an example. In my home, dozens of screens, and people can tell the likes, the shares, the motivations and behaviors of the people in this building. They don't know whether it's Kevin or Wendy or Michael or Luke, but they know those screens are very predictive on what motivations and behaviors are interesting to them. So from somebody's database that can be as small as 5 to 10,000 contacts, we can go out and develop personas back to the ones that we showed you at the beginning for Mike and I that start to give you demographic, psychographic information, product interest, and motivations. People at AI advertising sometimes get sick and tired of me hearing me say this, but I remind you now, and I'll remind us all, that marketing's job is cause an emotion to take action. It's this second step that starts putting those emotive indicators on top of the products and services that you sell. That's the first leg of the AI journey, because then we get to the creative, whether or not it's the words we use, the pictures we use, with generative AI, with scaling it. It's the prompts and predictors that are necessary for those engines to start giving you a variety of things to say, all the way the use of an emoji, the color of the ad, what is trending from a fear versus love. All of these things are the root narratives that will change the way that you play your ad into the public sphere. Beyond creative is where we omni-channel activate. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's a print piece, because print still works, as does linear TV or any type of a digital ad. We're tagging it based off of everything I just said. The emotion, the archetype, the demographic information. All of those things are tagged against each and every ad unit so that as you activate it in the performance section, we learn what works, what doesn't, and what's next. The flywheel part of our platform is that failures in this case are as good as successes because you learn something. You learn the elements and that's what the algorithms need. They need more and more data to drive in to find out why under this, uh, if I activated something on Facebook with these conditions, why did it not convert here, but it converted over here on ESPN? So this platform is what we've built to make sure we're embracing behaviors and interests in our storytelling. As we look at those models, this is the science that we do behind kind of that data that we're getting. On the left is that baseball card, the front of it, that gives you some interesting information, but the influence and persuasion tactics of how I think, what do I do, and the emotions that will trigger me to take action are things that we catalog on behalf of our clients. So how do we do that? As I mentioned, there's trillions of data points across that we're leaving behind every single day. And we embrace the big five ocean as the personality traits that we pick up on. Because when people are in the openness category versus neuroticism, they react to things differently. So your language, the words, the pictures, everything you need to use needs to be different as you go across these five personality types. But it's not just the personality types. There's a whole wheel of emotion, and we've cataloged 28 of them that we start A, B, C testing against those personality types. And what ends up happening is you develop for lack of a better example, a Rubik's Cube of the way to think about content. And on every side, it's relevant as to the emotions, the personality type, what's in your marketing calendar, what promotion or campaign are you running? You need a robust platform in order to catalog that so that you can do better storytelling. This is the way that we think about anybody that's running a marketing calendar and trying to do a storytelling through that journey. On the left-hand side, Kaizen is a made-up bike company, but the brand where I'm talking about myself is about my vision, my mission, my purpose. What is it beyond the products that I have to promote? Below that, product itself, the bike. What are the features, advantages, and benefits that I have for that bike? What are the promotions, or where is it being rode or used? These are all elements that traditional marketers have been doing for ages, but they're all based on me, my brand, my products, my services. You have to pivot the story in storytelling to not about me, but about you. And that's where we start diving into putting different versions of a brand story to a different personality. Michelle, a different brand story to Amy, a different brand story to Owen. And then you do the same thing for the products, whether or not you're promoting a unique element of this bike or a price point. Now I got to talk to Michelle differently than Amy, differently than Owen. This is where AI is fusing intelligence into storytelling. All of these are available so that people can start having more intimate, personal stories to their clients that they serve or prospects. But this is the arc of the new storytelling. And so if you combine the arc of the storytelling with where the stories are being told, my message to the audience today, Mike, is get back to what worked. Get back
Mm.
to rich storytelling, but then use the predictors and prompts so that they become more personalized towards the audience. So as I try to wrap a bow around this, that I was going through trying to prompt up the elements of a story, of a good story. Where are those stories being told? The thousands of places. Well, then how do I tell it better? In this case, I want it to be looking at, do you really know your own story? Do you know a story that's shareable? Because a shareable story's got to be authentic, not only to you, your brand, and your products, but also to me, the customer. Will it resonate with me? These are the elements that a marketer needs to think about. And what is the community? Who am I talking to? Where do they watch? Are they on regular TV? Are they on a YouTube? Or are they on one of the new fast channels? Do I need to integrate my story to a specific community that's playing in a much smaller sense? It's not spots and dots anymore in advertising. It's making sure that you go find out where the community exists and tell them a personalized, customized story. So this is kind of the way I wanted to wrap a bow around it. Hopefully, I offered up some elements of thinking about how to tell the story better, thinking about how to tell a personalized, emotional story better, the things that you need to catalog, and I just want to kind of leave it maybe here or here, Mike, to say, how do we open it up to questions as to does this is this nudging people for better storytelling, and then fusing how AI can embrace that in their marketing and advertising journey.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. That was awesome. And I am buzzing with ideas now. And we've got some questions coming in. But before we get to all of those, I did want to like make some observations about what you've said and kind of get your thoughts on them. So, hey, I mean, just the way you frame this, I think is so critical for marketers and advertisers of all different stripes to hear because well, something that we see in like literally last year, we did dozens of talks, workshops, had hundreds of people take our paid courses, had literally tens of thousands of people take our free courses. And often what we see is that people are ready to race forward and say, okay, how does AI magically make my brand better, more authentic, more resonant with audiences? And I get it. I'm excited about AI too and how it can be applied. But if you don't have this core storytelling, this core strategy, this core understanding of your audience's needs, frankly, AI is not going to help you do better. It's going to amplify bad strategy and bad storytelling, right? So that's why I love what you went through. I would just love to get your thoughts on that. It just sounds like this going back to the fundamentals is so critical for anyone interested in then looking at the future of advertising.
The AI is machines doing math better than we can, right? So uh, storytelling is so nuanced, as I had just shared. So AI is the machine that can go ahead and help us scale that message,
Mhm.
personalize it, bring it to individuals in a more meaningful way. Um, if I think about kind of the breakdown of what when I take away from this, go back to the beginning and say, is my marketing calendar set up for a great storytelling across the year?
Mm.
And what part of that story am I telling? Is it about my brand? Brand is so important. And what does AI do to brand? Nothing at the surface. Your brand is about your vision, your purpose, what you believe. Simon Sinek's why. All the answers to those things are your brand. So uh, tell that story and then compartmentalize it. And then on the next layer down, tell a story about your product and service. Different story, mind you. And that's got to be about what is the uniqueness of what you do. What are the features, advantages, benefits about what you do? So again, I'm trying to make a layer approach to this. And then beyond that, now bring the customer into the storytelling, if you will.
Mm.
And that's the personas. So the layered cake there is brand, product or service, and then the persona, the customer. And fusing them together is what it takes to break through. Um, there is technology here. And I will tell you that as we really focused on what we built and what our customers have in the form of their own CRM and their own systems, there's a really tired and old saying in tech. It's people, process, and technology.
Mm.
And if you're not evaluating that internally, as well as what I kind of laid out are the building blocks to storytelling, then you're not going to be able to embrace this new world of AI and machine learning because it is all about breaking the story, the brand, the product and services down to individual components and pieces parts to let the machines tell you, how do I assemble them better
Mm.
for this audience, for this part of the customer journey? Um, One other kind of visual I like to leave people with, Mike, is the funnel still matters, right? And at the top end of the funnel, I'm just trying to get you to, know me. I'm trying to get to awareness. And so the content that I might use to get you to turn your head is a lot different than the content I need to use in order for you to consider me, come to my website, learn more about me. Now I want you to buy or try different content. And if I have bought from you and you'd like me to buy more, that now you're getting into what's loyal about that customer. So the as I look at the multifaceted dimensions of all of this, even though I'm trying to simplify it to the story,
Mm.
it matters that all of these parameters are cataloged. It matters that you embrace artificial intelligence to know when to use each individual parameter. So does that make sense that it's the cataloging of the entire journey
Mm.
and everything we do in marketing and then within our marketing calendar and maybe coming back down to these 4 bullet points. Do you have a story? Is it authentic? Is it repeatable? Is it going to resonate with the community you intend to talk to? This is the simple approach. The tougher approach is really defining the people and the processes and all of those conditions that I described.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really kind of important here for us to maybe spend a couple minutes on, we've gotten a few questions about just like how AI tangibly kind of helps with this and both understanding our audiences better and telling better stories and also kind of creating the content around those stories that communicates that narrative. And I can share a few thoughts here and kind of how we're viewing this at Marketing AI Institute. And I'd love to kind of get your big picture take on exactly how AI is enhancing, once you do have a good story, like how AI is enhancing this. And I'll kind of kick off by saying, I think that when you're creating content or stories or trying to better understand your audience, it comes back to something Kevin has mentioned multiple times, rightly so in this presentation, which is data on consumers, data on your audience. That is the superpower of artificial intelligence. These systems excel at understanding vast amounts of data. And this is really a key piece, in my opinion, to how the future is changing, even though we're staying with the fundamentals. Like, fundamentals of what motivate people and emotions and what drives your customers to act. That's probably hasn't changed that much because our brains are still somewhat similar to the way they've been for the last few hundred years. But what has changed is the amount of signals, and Kevin, you mentioned this, that you can extract from the vast amounts of data we now have online. Now, that can come from a lot of places. And I think there was a question here about where data is coming from. Um, you can get data like first party data from your CRMs, from behavioral data that you've collected through various platforms on your customers, on your website visitors, on your prospects. You can enrich that data through third parties. You can provide it based on your own internal expertise. The point here is that using some AI tools today, whether it's something as simple as ChatGPT or a more custom, powerful solution like those that AI advertising is offering, these tools can tell you much more about your customers if you can give them the material that is needed to actually understand them. So, by that, I mean, if you're a human just trying to do this on your own, unfortunately, it often falls into a few categories. You either don't do it, and I think there were some comments in here how unfortunately a lot of us do, or our clients do lack personas at all. Even if you have personas, oftentimes we lack the bandwidth and the insight to truly make those unique and authentic based on what everything you went through. Um, and even if you do have them, we sometimes don't use them or they're not granular enough. So I think AI really can extract, it's an insight machine. It can really extract and understand data about your customers at a much wider level than human beings can alone. And the last point I'd add here before kind of getting your perspective, Kevin, is that this idea of scale matters a lot. Like when we're creating original content or creating stories, you talked about AI can help us scale up telling stories by creating more content for us. Again, based on that foundation of actually understanding your customers, having robust personas, and having an actual story to tell. So you don't have to then talk about all that in a manual way via content. And I think it can also help us look at different variations and possibilities. I mean, we can literally dump a great piece of content into one of these tools we have today and spin off hundreds of variations that have different angles, different motivations. Give me this blog post, this ad, this headline, as if I'm speaking to a totally different person than it was written for. We can really quickly start to explore all the vast possibilities of truly personalizing brand stories to our customers. So, Kevin, I wanted to kind of get your perspective on that. Like, how are you seeing AI really make an impact once you have that foundation of storytelling?
So, I think the most important thing is we're fortunate to work with different brands, and part of the story that you got to rectify is, what does success look like for the client? And so when working with any client, some of the questions I ask are, what are the things you know about your process, your customers, um, their motivations and interest? What don't you know? What do you want to know? What are the things that matter most in context to those? What does success look like? Unfortunately, the chief marketing officer has the shortest tenure of any person chief in the business, and it's primarily because they are highly creative, a lot of them, and want to tell stories, but they leave the math outside the door.
Hmm.
And a CMO that acts more like a CFO and comes and tells you, no, I know what my return on ad spend is. I know what it costs to acquire a customer. And if I have the customer, I know their frequency. I know what products they're buying from me and those that they're not buying from me. I know what it costs to get a lead. These are the metrics that begin kind of the alignment of what are we doing here. So these are the things that, as I think about what's the flip side of storytelling, it's the story of what your company, your brand's trying to accomplish, and what are those metrics. So, uh, making sure that you get those metrics, and in our case, we catalog them and have custom dashboards so that not only are we storytelling on one end, but we're keeping our eye on the ball on the other end to say, did it work? Are you getting a, 2, 3 ROAS? Are you lowering your customer acquisition cost? Is frequency improving? Is churn reducing? So uh, I I like to bring a lot of I love creative, and we've got a really magnificent creative for our clients, but I like the math around it more and on what's working and what's not and what's next. So that's part of what I would want to leave with the audience is that, ask those binary questions that don't have a narrative behind them. They've got a yes, no, or a figure with them, so that you bring the math to the marketing challenge, and then go be creative, and then go do storytelling, and fuse these two things together. I think is the recipe for success.
So we got a really good question here that I think AI advertising and we at the Institute also have some experience with. I'd love to get your perspective on it because it is such a key part of this conversation. When we are working with partners and partner agencies, what insights and data should we be pushing for or expecting as table stakes in those relationships here? Like, what kinds of initiatives and knowledge should they be bringing to the table when it comes both to the storytelling side and the AI side?
So, I mean, what our perspective of this is that there is a whole universe of third party data out there that will give you insights to what you have as your first party data. Um, there's a saying too in the technology world that the path is you have first party data, you append it with third party data to learn more about people.
Hmm.
The path really is to get to zero party data. How do you do that? What is zero party data? Zero party data is you know things about me because of what I bought. You may even know things about me in this case because of who I am and all that data that is being harvested in and around me and 240 million other Americans. But for me to tell you something unique or interesting about me is the flip side of a relationship, a story that resonated with you, and an opportunity for me to ask you a personal question. Because the journey for getting to the best data is still through kind of relationships and human beings and having somebody tell you whether it's a mini poll within an email
Mm.
or it's a conversation with somebody in the business. Learning something personal about me is the end of the kind of the rainbow. And it's funny that my business is AI advertising, but as a long in the tooth marketer, I know that the goal is to get to word of mouth,
Mm.
where literally there's a little less advertising, there's more authentic storytelling and an exchange of information. Y- Because of all the tech, this isn't a pipe dream anymore. So I saw some questions in there where how do we fuse and merge what we're doing in search and organic? Well, you got to spend time seeing what are people saying about you online.
Mm.
What are your social handles? What are the comments? You can harvest comments about your brand on your social channels, and it'll boil up the sentiment of what people are saying about you. Um, so it is about like being intensely curious about the things I don't know. And and I think that's going to be the key to success for all the people that attended this event today, Mike.
That's a really important point that I think bears repeating is that if you're kind of newer to AI and how it can help you in advertising, storytelling, marketing at large, a really key point to understand is that in the last year or two, we've unlocked the ability to basically view language as data that our brands can use. So anything someone says, writes, publishes, yes, it's words, I get it, but it's also data, it's information that your brand can use AI to process and understand how people view you, how they feel about different topics, what messages resonate with them. So even if you're struggling to kind of okay, wrap your head around the big picture and say like what data should I use? Where should I get started? Think of anything that is written down as a place to start. I would I'd argue it's a worthwhile line of inquiry, whether it's internally in documents and personas and messaging you already have, or externally, people talking about you online and on social media. These can all be mined very effectively and quite easily often by AI tools to give you at least some additional insight. And I think that final point there is also really important because you mentioned something that kind of struck me, which is, even when we're talking about this zero party data, even just a simple poll in an email can really help you further understand and personalize messaging to your audience. I recall, for all the talks we do, every single one I do with an organization, no matter how big or small, we send out a very short, simple poll beforehand with a few really key questions to better understand the audience. And this is not rocket science. This is not some in depth report. It's 5 to 7 questions that 50, 100, 200, 300 people answer. And we actually use like ChatGPT Plus to understand what are some of the things people care about in this data. You could certainly do it manually as well, but even a simple poll can really help you understand further what motivates your customers, what they actually want to hear from you, and then help you craft stories around that. And, AI as an ideation tool in that process can be invaluable. Does that kind of align with what you're seeing, Kevin?
Does, and as I'm glancing also up at some of the questions that are flowing through, people are wanting to know, "Hey, Kevin, what tools exactly are you using?"
Mm,
We have our own platform. It's built off of Microsoft technology, so the platform itself is built in Azure, and there's newer technologies that are right up next to OpenAI, called Fabric in a programming language, a lake house where we save and keep all the data. So that's the plumbing part of it, and then we have tools to go ahead and develop those personas, and then we use things that you'd expect: ChatGPT, Midjourney, Dolly.
mm.
But then we have tools that will look at a piece of artwork and then codify it and say, this is why this is working. So we have some proprietary ones and we have some ones that anybody could go pick up and use. And where do we apply them? That was a question. We're fortunate to call Caterpillar a client, a global top 100 brand. We have their dealers, and talking to somebody that is renting versus buying, somebody who's looking for parts and services, that's a whole different story across them. We have supplement companies, one called Vinia, and while it's a supplement to increase blood flow, if I'm talking to people my age or older, it's about just being healthy versus those that want washboard stomachs, and those that are outdoor enthusiasts versus those that want to still kind of toss their grandchildren around. So, from supplements to heavy equipment to fruit cakes and bakeries, we've got experience across a lot of industries. Um, and it just matters that you break down all of the components into, I'll say it again, what is it I know? What don't I know? What do I want to know? And what are the metrics that matter the most? That'll help you on this journey of getting into AI and prompts. Um, Really good questions on here, Mike. We wouldn't possibly we'd be here for another 2 hours
No kidding.
because people are tuning into different elements of this, whether it be the storytelling or the AI. And fortunately for us, maybe unfortunate, there's a lot to it. It's complex. And so find yourself a partner that brings some math and science to the table of storytelling. And so that would be my recommendation to the audience.
That's fantastic. And, we're getting to kind of our final minutes here, Kevin. So I do want to maybe do one more question here, but um, I have some thoughts on this, but I want to get your takeaway here. Like if I'm, in the audience right now, we have this amazing big picture, in depth idea of how AI is going to evolve and transform the advertising we're doing. But let's bring it really down to earth and say, like, as I leave this webinar, what is kind of one initial step I can start taking as a marketer, as an advertiser to kind of move myself and my business forward based on what we've been kind of discussing here over the last hour or so?
I think if you go back to your place of business and you find yourself ripe with opinions, then you're probably outside the realm of where AI works best. Um, my brother wrote a book. It's called Tuned In, and one of my favorite lines from it is, "Your opinion, although interesting, is irrelevant." Marketing has been too opinion based, and it doesn't mean that there's not fabulous creatives out there that can inspire. But okay, that's a creative approach to it. But what's the math behind it?
Hmm.
What is it? Not my opinion of this works, but what's the math tell me of what's resonating, and with what community, with and what part of the customer journey or marketing funnel? So I say be creative. AI will make you more creative, but please, please, please bring some math and science to the dialogue around what's working and what's not, versus just your opinion.
Man, that is, I feel like I need to have that hanging over, my office or something, like that is
Well,
advice
you know
every
what?
marketer
Like,
needs.
we're all guilty of it because, as a matter of fact, everybody in the world's a marketer because everybody in the world is a customer.
Yep.
So it's like, I got an opinion and that matters most. Maybe, maybe not.
Well, Kevin, we're just about at time here. I want to thank you so much for breaking this down. It's such a unique perspective on the fundamentals of AI, advertising, and storytelling. And it's a really important reminder, I think, for our audience. I can very easily answer the question of what should be your next step here. If you do any type of advertising, it is well worth having a conversation with AI advertising. Go to AiAdvertising.com, check out what they've got on offer, reach out to Kevin and the team if you have any questions about their AI powered approaches. As we've seen over the last hour, AI is the future of advertising and understanding your customers. So the time to get started is now. And if you would like, please go ahead and follow and check out all the resources that both AI Advertising and Marketing AI Institute have to offer. So, Kevin, did you want to maybe really quickly run down your podcast, The Realm of Possibilities? Maybe give us a sense of what we can hear on that, because I know people love any and every podcast we can throw their way about artificial intelligence and marketing.
I tried to step outside to not talk uh, data and geeky stuff. The realm of possibilities is around storytelling and meeting people, and what was their story and how did they solve problems. So it's a really fun platform to tell the story about the results of what AI can do versus kind of the pieces parts of it. And I want to, your podcast here is actually fabulous too. So here's a couple good ones. Please join us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Kevin, so much. And thank you, everyone, for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. We hope to see you again on a future webinar. And in the meantime, have a fantastic day. Kevin, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Sorry for being coughing and the breakup in the middle, but it was really a pleasure to be with you today.
The pleasure was all ours. We really appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.